All right, so today I'm on the charts, and today we're going to talk about how exactly to identify a trend in the market. And this is very important because you need to know the overall direction of where price is going. You need to know where price is going, because that's going to influence what type of opportunity you look for in the market, right? So if a market is dominantly going to the upside, you may want to consider a buy. You want to go with the current flow of price. Or if price is moving to the downside, then you may look to potentially short the market, or get involved with a sell opportunity. So knowing how to identify trends is just really important when it comes to becoming a successful Forex trader. All right, so as I've previously stated, you need to know the direction of where price is going, right? So you need to know the direction, the overall direction. And I really look for the direction of where price is going on the bigger time frames, like the monthly, the weekly, the daily, because that's going to tell me the dominant trend. You may see trends happening on some smaller time frames, but looking at those higher time frames will really give a better story as to where the market has been and where it's potentially going. All right. The next thing, and this is similar to knowing the direction, I would say it's synonymous with knowing the direction, but you need to know if newer highs and newer lows or newer lows are being created, right? So are we getting newer highs or newer lows? All right, so if we're getting newer highs, then we know we're in an uptrend, and if we're getting newer lows, then we know we're in a downtrend. And I'm gonna get on the charts and give you guys some more practical examples of that in a second. All right, so there's a couple of directions that price can go. As I've kind of already alluded to, price could be going up, it could be going down, or it could not really be going up or down. It could just be in what is known as consolidation. All right, so what I'm gonna do is get on the charts, look at a couple markets, and show you guys an example of these three scenarios, okay? So here is Euro Mexican peso on the weekly time frame. And here, just looking at price and knowing that the x-axis is time, you can see that price is going up, right? Price is making a steady move to the upside. But how do we know that? How do we sort of define the fact that this market is going up? Well, we have to see that newer highs, newer peaks are being made in the market, okay? And newer higher lows. So that's basically what I'm going to show you guys in a second, just to make this a little bit more apparent. All right, so let's start from the left. So we can all agree that this is a low in the market, basically a trough. And then here's a high, right? It's a peak. It's where price basically reversed for a decent amount of time. So I'm going to label this as a high, right? So just H for high, and then L over here for low as my first low and first high in the market. All right, so if we come over here, this right here is a higher low, right? So remember, this is the first low here, and now here's the higher low, the higher trough that we are making. So I'm gonna label that as a higher low. All right, doesn't show up too nicely on this chart. Maybe if I move it around, there you can see higher low being made in the market. All right, let's keep going with this example. So if we move to this region, we see this is the next highest peak. So this right here is a higher high, right? It's higher than the previous high. This is the first high. This is the next high. It's a higher high in the market. So I'm going to label that as a double H to represent higher high. Okay. We can keep going with this example. Here you see the next low in the market is a higher low, right? So let me go ahead and label that one right here. So here's the first low, the next low is higher, and then the next low is higher. So we're making higher lows and we're making higher highs in the market. So that's how you know that you're in an uptrend. You continue to make higher peaks, which are the higher highs, and then higher troughs, higher lows in the market. And that's how you identify a trend, right? So we just identified that we're in an uptrend. We continue to make newer highs, right? So that's how you basically identify. It's as simple as that. And what I'm going to do now is transition over to another chart where we can look at, maybe a market where we're making lower lows or lower highs, where that would be classified as a downtrend. Okay. So let's come over to GBP CAD and let's just zoom in on this region right here of price. So here is clearly a high or a peak in the market. So I'm just going to label that as a high with H. And if we come down here, we know that this is the first low in the market. So I'm going to label that with an L. It's basically a trough. It's a reversal point in price. So we've identified a high and a low. Let me come over to the next peak, which happens to be a lower high. It's lower than the previous high, right? So here's our first high. Here's our second high, which is lower than the one before it. So this is a lower high, right? So I'm going to label that as a lower high. Okay. And here is a lower low. It's a trough in the market. So I'm going to label that as a lower low. And just looking at price, you can see that this is clearly moving to the downside. It's in a downtrend. So how do we know if something is, if a market is in a downtrend? Well, it would have to be making lower lows and lower highs. All right. So that's how you identify if you're in a downtrend. Is it making lower lows and lower highs? Are the highs consecutively lower and are the lows consecutively lower? Okay. And let me actually come back and label this as a lower low. Lower low right here. Okay. So we've just identified how to locate a uptrend and a downtrend. And now the last example that I have for you guys is if we're not moving in an uptrend or downtrend, we're just kind of moving sideways in the market. And that's a scenario where you'll see that we're not making newer lows or newer highs. We're kind of just stagnant. And so this region right here can be classified as consolidation. We're not really moving to the upside or the downside. We're just staying stagnant. And this is what I would classify as consolidation. So that's that third trend that a market could potentially be in, or state that a market can be in a state of consolidation. All right, so those are the three types of trends that I basically look for in a market, how to identify them, and basically base your trading decisions off of whether or not a market is moving to the upside or the downside, or even in a region of consolidation. All right, so in future lessons, I'm just going to build upon this concept because it's going to be very important when it comes to making decisions in the market. All right, so with that, thank you guys for tuning in. And if you appreciate this type of content, definitely leave a like down below, as well as comment any type of lesson or beginner's lesson that you want to see covered in another video, as well as do not forget to subscribe for future content like this. All right, so with that, thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll check back with you guys very soon. Peace.